Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Nightlife 24/7.
So I got the live, but I can't share it.
I don't sweat it. Hey, everyone. As always, I'm your boy Mac and my girl Sweet. What's up?
Jonesing, trying to stay connected, trying to keep my head above water.
Well, you know what? You should stand in water that only comes up to your knees then. That way you ain't got to worry about it. See?
You might be right.
Problem
I'm doing
solved.
too much. I'm doing too much.
So tonight, everyone, we are doing a show with someone that y'all have not met yet, but it's time that I introduce her to you, Dr. Cladia Laufer. How we doing?
Hi, doing all right. Doing all right.
All right. So tonight, guys, we're going to talk about something other than sex, even though sex will be included. We're going to be talking about good health and good sexual health. And just so you understand and know, Dr. Laufer is a doctor of Eastern medicine and she is an acupuncturist, but she is totally all about Eastern medicine. So we're going to talk to you guys about maintaining good health using some herbal remedies and acupuncture versus Western medicine, which totally believes in let me give you something to cover that symptom up. It really doesn't matter. We're not trying to fix the problem. We're just covering the problem up. So, Dr. Laufer, please tell us a little bit. Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Germany, actually. So back in Germany, I grew up around natural medicine. In the mainstream medicine in Germany, doctors still know how to prescribe herbs. They're commonly used as well and recommended before regular pharmaceuticals are recommended. And then at 24, I moved to the United States, where I was quite shocked at how many pills were given out and that there was advertisement for medications on television, which was something I was not used to at all from Germany. And my path in the beginning was different. I was a journalist and a graphic artist, and then I was a fine artist. But then I went into studying psychology. So I got my BA in psychology, and then I got my master's and my doctorate in Eastern medicine, acupuncture, and herbalism.
See, she answered all my questions before I even asked them. See?
All of them.
I know all of them. Didn't even give me a chance to ask them. She's like, hey, I'm just put it all out there. So she got to ask me nothing. Okay. So with that all being said, why Eastern medicine? I mean, you jump from journalism to Eastern medicine. Why Eastern medicine? Why not just become a regular doctor and prescribe medication?
For me, it was more a psychological and spiritual quest. I come from a pretty dysfunctional family, and I developed a lot of really dysfunctional coping mechanisms. So I seem to have been on a quest to kind of heal my entire self. So I grew up with focus on body health, physical health, but the mental, emotional, and the spiritual health were really neglected. And when I moved to the United States, I took a class in psychology and immediately fell in love with psychology. So that was the first step. So my plan originally was to become a psychologist and become a regular family counselor. However, at one point in my psychology studies, I took a weekend course on traditional Chinese medicine. And that completely changed my mind because Western medicine looks at everything isolated. The whole idea about Western medicine is we'll cut everything out and we'll look at everything completely in isolation, and then we figure out how to treat that, which works great for advanced problems, but not for regular health and health maintenance. And in Eastern medicine, you can treat the body, the mind, and the spirit all at the same time. So whereas Western medicine has, like, you have a patient that goes to see a psychologist for depression, and they see a gynecologist for painful periods or infertility, and they see a pain doctor for chronic lower back pain and headaches, and they may see an endocrinologist because they have diabetes or another metabolic disorder.
Oh, sound like you was talking about me.
Exactly, that's the whole thing. That's real people.
Because that's exactly what they do. You're absolutely right.
And in Chinese medicine, we can treat it all because we look at the big picture. We look at the body as an ecosystem, and we try to understand what is imbalance and how we can balance it again. So we can actually write one herbal formula that addresses all of that, rather than sending people to a multitude of different specialists.
Wow.
And I'm
Go
really
ahead,
glad
please.
you broke that down, because when I dropped out of med school, people thought I was crazy. They're like, "What do you mean? You can be a doctor." And I'm like, it just doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
How come I can't help people? I have to band-aid the situation, get a referral, get an insurance approval in order for someone to be helped. And if this is what I'm going to sign up for, you can't tell me that I can be, legally held responsible for overachieving my job.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I totally, totally understand.
And
And
when
being a patient, it's not easy when things were broken down, when I was more doing what I was told instead of doing what I learned. I was going to 15 doctor's appointments in a month.
yeah.
Wow. I get what you're saying when it comes to the doctors, because being a veteran, I had to be very clear right from the get go that I would not be taking all these different medications that they were trying to prescribe for us. I made it very clear that because they were trying to prescribe so much medication, they were not dealing with the problem. They were giving me remedies to cover the problem or make me not know that the problem was there anymore. And it's even in my charts to say I will not take medication to cover up things. I have it specifically stated. And I told them, even
Well,
when I didn't want to deal with my PTSD, I said, I'm not going to take medications to deal with anxiety. I'm not going to take medications to make me hide the symptoms of having anxiety attacks. I need to deal with the problem. And for years, I dealt with it. Um, but there are other problems that came of that because of me not dealing with it or being able to, I guess the best word is to cover it up or hide it. So let's talk about acupuncture, because I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I love acupuncture. I I had been thinking about and considering acupuncture for years. Um, I have arthritis in my lower back and a bulging disc in my lower back, and there are many times when I can't even get out of bed or walk. And I remember the first time they suggested acupuncture to me, and I was like, hell yes. And they were like, you sure? And I was like, man, yes. And I'll never forget the first time that I went in and got acupuncture done. I explained to the doctor, he's a little short gentleman, maybe 5'4", 5'5", no bigger than 100 even, maybe 95 to 100 pounds. And he stuck me with the needles. I couldn't see what he was doing, but I told him where my pain was. He had me lay on the table, and he says, when I finish with you, we worked a long time together. I promise no pain, and your core will be strong. You have a strong core. I said, really? Okay, whatever. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And I remember getting up from the table, and I had a sense of euphoria, and my eyesight was like a white haze. And so I went and sat down in the waiting room, and they were like, "You're okay?" And I said, "Yeah." I didn't know what to tell them, so I'm like, "I'm just sitting here gathering myself together." And it didn't even dawn on me that I had no pain. It didn't even dawn because I had pain for so many years. I didn't realize the pain was gone. And that night, I was like, oh my God, I'm not in pain. I had 15 appointments. I went back that next weekend and I told that guy, I said, hey, if you were a woman, I would kiss you and I would probably sleep with you right now.
But you
I
know,
did. I did. He looked at me weird, but I did say that to him.
there was a time when I didn't understand how people would tell me, they would come to me for therapy, but then they were like, thank you so much. You have no idea. And I'm like, I just did my job.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went to a massage therapist that was really, really good, and I walked away, I was cranky, my back felt funny, and I'm standing there and I'm like, he beat my ass.
Yes.
And the next day, I got up pain free.
Yes.
I was always prepared to do a little bit sit down, do a little bit sit down,
Yeah.
to not overdo it. And at the end of the day, I think I was standing there doing laundry. I was putting clothes in the dryer and I realized my back wasn't hurting. Like, I called him and I left him a message at his office. It was probably 7:45 in the evening. And I said, I really want to say thank you. I really want you to know that in this moment, I appreciate you more than you would ever know. And if I was single, I'll probably, you know what I'm saying, you could probably get a little something, because like he changed my life.
Yeah.
Knowing that we've conformed ourselves so much to deal with the pain that we have because of the education and the system that
Yeah, it's people don't understand that I've dealt with it for so long. I remember when I met Claudia, and I told her right up front, and she was like, "Why don't you go to bed? Why don't you sleep?" I was like, "I don't sleep. I just don't." And she said, "Okay, well, let me do this." She said, "I'm going to do something," and she said, "It's going to open up your channels." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And she stuck these needles in my ear, on both ears. And my ass was not, I swear to God, I was fighting in the chair to stay awake. I was sitting there literally fighting. I know I fell asleep. I must have fell asleep at least 6 or 7 times in that chair. Because she said you had to, I think it was 45 minutes. I think you told me I had to keep in there for 45 minutes, Claudia. And it took everything I had to stay awake. And I was in bed every night after that by 10:30, 11 o'clock, and slept to 7, 8 o'clock. Whereas before, I was going to bed anywhere between 3 and 5 o'clock in the morning.
That I know.
Yeah, even though the stories all sound nice, but for acupuncture, to really get the maximum benefit from it, you actually have to do it regularly. That's one of the problems that the Western system and insurance system hasn't fully understood yet. For acute problems, if you're in acute pain, it can put a dent into it. But if you really want to get the long-term effects to prevent any new problems from developing, you need to do it more frequently. And that's one of the things when I look at the VA, they only allow a certain amount of treatments, and then you need to go whole process again. And also the frequency. For example, when I have somebody coming in with acute back pain, I will tell them to come 3 times the first week. Then the next week, I tell them they have to come twice a week. And then we see if they can come once a week or if we stay with twice a week. Because you got to think about it. Your body has been in pain for so long that your body became comfortable being all twisted. That's all they know. And this is what the body's comfortable with. So when you do acupuncture, you adjust it again and you're pain free, but the body is still kind of used to this. So it'll slowly go back. That's why in the beginning, you want to have frequent treatments to really train the body and train the muscular and neurological system to go along healthier pathways rather than staying in the disease patterns.
So with that being said, so if I was having discomfort having sex, I'm not that flexible. I have lower back pain, or I can't really enjoy myself with my partner because I'm trying not to push it too much. Would
Exactly.
you say you can recommend acupuncture even for just, average body comfort when people does not have a specific diagnosis for an actual, problem?
Oh, absolutely. Excuse me. Actually, I need to go and get something to drink real quick because I have a dry throat. You
Oh,
guys,
'cause I was about to pass you the weed.
Yeah, I thought she was smoking weed too. I was like, well, damn, if she's taking a
I
puff
wish.
and she can't, that must be some good shit from Cali.
Listen, Mac, I'm about to say grab a brownie and join the party.
Yeah, no shit, man. I was like, damn, she must be smoking on that good shit. That's why she be happy. She be doing acupuncture on herself.
I really
Man.
wish that people stood up for their physical health because the system can only break down when we stop depending on the system. And when more people learn the benefits of things like acupuncture, I mean, there's probably some hella happy people.
Yeah.
If you're not in pain all day, you don't have a reason not to be healthy.
Exactly. And to get back to your question, acupuncture is actually really good at it because when you deal with sexual dysfunction, you got to look at the age. If a woman in her 40s comes in and she complains about pain during sex, or if a man in his 50s comes in and he says he's starting to suffer from erectile dysfunction, there's going to be a different underlying dynamic than if a 25-year-old or a 35-year-old comes in with pain during intercourse or with erectile dysfunction. In the 40s, 50s category, it's most likely related to age, to hormones. So the treatment would be to do herbs and acupuncture to help the body access the resources. Like you can do treatments that help engage some of the reserves, and you can prescribe foods and herbs that help to replenish some of the substance. With a younger person, especially with younger men, a lot of times it's performance anxiety. So if I would give them all the stuff all the herbs that I would give an older person, it wouldn't do anything because the problem is the kid is simply nervous and is afraid to fail. So from
And
that
here it
point,
is. I thought I just had some good coochie.
well, you hear a lot of stories as well.
That's what
Yeah,
the
all the
guys used
time
to
you be
say.
thinking a whole nother thing.
So if we have these young guys, like she said, most of the young guys that do have sexual, issues is because of the anxieties. The older guys actually have the physical issues, but we don't address these issues. So if he started off as that young guy, that's at 27, 28 years old, and the first thing he says is, I was just excited, the pussy good. And then next thing you know, every single time it's the same because the pussy good. Not knowing that you need to deal with anxiety and get you some acupuncture and come back to mommy and put it down.
Yeah. Because
Exactly.
eventually mommy gonna say, well, I know it's good, but that 2 minutes I'm about to out of 2 minutes.
Right. So now they turn into those 40 and 50-year-olds that
Yeah.
have physical issues that probably started with their freaking anxiety that they've
Yeah.
been carrying for the last 15 years in their sexual relationships.
Exactly.
Wow.
And for us, I would like a young person would most likely have a pattern that we call liver cheese stagnation, whereas an older person is much more likely to have what we call kidney deficiency, kidney yin and yang deficiency. So it would be two completely different treatments. But at the same time, the treatment for each patient will also automatically address the mental emotional stuff because the
Right.
younger person may just be uncomfortable with performance anxiety. With the older person, they're dealing with the process of accepting that they're aging. They're dealing with all of a sudden, I'm not the stud anymore. I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, I'm like trying and thinking, and nothing is happening. So it helps with the emotional aspect of that as well. So it's really all around good because whatever you treat, we base our diagnosis exclusively on the patterns of symptoms and how they present. And that will give us an idea of the climate inside the body. We can see what the constitution is. We can see what the current pattern is depending on the symptoms they have. And then we can prescribe a treatment plan, which usually includes acupuncture, herbs, dietary recommendations. Matt can sing a song of dietary changes right now. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah. I was gonna ask you though. I was gonna ask you because I went to a lot of Chinese stores and they've given me. I remember getting. I told a lady years ago I had a digestive problem. She gave me some stuff that looked like bark mixed up with some stuff in a brown bag. She said you had to boil
exactly.
this and you had to drink, and it tasted. And honestly, it tasted like a dog who had rubbed his ass across a pile of dirt and then peed in it and then farted on top of that. And then that's what it tasted like. And you
I'm
had to
done
drink
with
it.
you.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
done
yeah.
with
But
you.
you had to drink this shit. You had to drink it twice a day for 2 weeks. I used to call it ass water. That's what I called it. I called it ass water. But it did help my digestion. I can't lie about that. It did. So let me ask you, does acupuncture or can acupuncture help with the digestive system?
Of course, anything that the herbs do, the acupuncture can do as well. They just work from slightly different perspectives. But in general, I like to combine acupuncture with herbs because acupuncture is the most passive form in which a patient can look for help. It's they're coming, they're lying down on the table, they're expecting you to stick the needles in, and then they want to feel better afterwards. But the only thing they really need to do is get themselves to the office. So that's
Okay.
very low
Okay.
involvement in health. Like Western medicine doesn't involve patient in their health at all. They just tell them what to do and give them pills, and that's it. So in Chinese medicine, we go much deeper with it. So I like to give herbs on top of acupuncture because A, they work well together. And when the person is done with acupuncture, the herbs continue to do the work. But also the herbs now require that the patients remember it every day to take the herbs. So
Okay.
that's one step more involvement because every day they need to do something actively towards their health. And herbs, unlike the Western medications, you usually need to take 2 to 3 times a day, and you need to take them at somewhat the same time. And a lot of them, if they're in liquid form, they taste horrible, but they're available as capsules and tablets.
Well, I'm gonna bring up a question that all men want to know. Women love to tell us, "Not tonight, baby. I got a headache." I know for a fact acupuncture can help with headaches. I've
Oh
seen them
yes.
put the needles in the head and get rid of the headache.
Time out. So you're
How about
saying,
needles
so
in the
you're
foot when
saying the next time I say I got a headache, you're gonna go pay for me to get some acupuncture so I won't have a headache again for the next 6 months.
You damn right. You damn skippy. Yeah. And if I can find an acupuncturist to do a home call, I'm like, listen, can you be here in an hour?
So do acupuncturists offer mobile services?
I know there's practices who do house calls. For example, when I started in the beginning, for the first month until I had an office location, I offered house calls to my patients. So I would just travel around. I did my doctorate with a specialty in longevity and healthy aging. So I provided hospice service to a lot of patients I was treating before in senior citizen settings. So of course, in that case too, I would do the house calls. I would just drive to the cars and then do the treatments right there. So there's definitely mobile acupuncturists out there.
That's amazing. I wonder if that's something I can incorporate with my business.
I don't see why not. You go and do home testing and do blood draws and all that stuff. Why would you not?
I mean, the ideal combination for me is functional medicine together with acupuncture. Because functional medicine, if you have a license that allows you to do blood draws and do testing, I mean, I was licensed in California. So in California, I was able to order labs because I was considered a primary care physician. I just moved to Georgia, so I still need to figure out what I need to do to be able to practice here eventually.
Well, with that, I don't need an order to draw blood because I do POC. Because I utilize the instruments to do point of care testing and there's nothing being sent back to the lab, and we have the results right away according to the proper instrumentation that we're using for the tests that are required,
Right.
I can do just a basic whatever. So I do blood gases. We do cholesterol, blood sugar, a couple of other tests. We even have bone density scans, EKGs, PFTs, all that stuff, DNA testing. Um, and if you can say someone can call and have mobile blood work because that's something that's very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
People can have mobile massage therapists. It's an elective, but it's still very important. Why haven't we, popularized mobile Eastern medicine, like just in general?
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. And again, like in most of the big cities, you can always find people who do the mobile acupuncture as well. There's a lot of people that come straight out of college, or people who really don't want the overhead of a practice, who do the mobile. You just need to find the right referrals for it. And I mean,
Well,
also
I
with
like that idea.
depending on what you use it for, you would also look at acupuncturists with different specialties. For example, there's acupuncturists that specialize in nothing but mental emotional stuff. Like for me, for example, the style of acupuncture I study focuses heavily on release of old trauma. So it's a system that accesses prenatal vessels. So it's able to help in release of intergenerational trauma. It's able to actually help the body physically release early childhood trauma. And that can make therapies. When you combine that system of acupuncture with therapy, you will make incredible strides, because the person will not only understand in the head what's going on, but the acupuncture was able to free up the channels and get the channels to drain all the old drama that was held before. So the processing of it and allowing it to come up and out is something that can really help people change for good, and not just the constantly needing to monitor to stay on track.
Wow.
That I think is so amazing. I lived in LA, and there was a therapist I used to work with, and he would do this therapy session while the patient was getting acupuncture.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds
And
awesome.
we would, when we sit down and do our notes every week, and, he was always having so much progression. And at that time, I couldn't afford to bring on an acupuncturist. So for individuals that I knew had the severe need, I would send them to him because I felt like he had so much more to offer. And I saw the reports from the results that some of those individuals had. And he did late childhood trauma.
Mm-hmm. Well, I
That
mean,
was his
there's
specialty.
there's tons of studies that have proven that acupuncture and acupuncture together with herbs works as good or better than antidepressants. So, and therapies, we know that it really helps. And I'm a big believer into integrative medicine. That's why I like functional medicine, because functional medicine practitioners don't look at the big disease names. They look at all the micronutrients in your body. They check out all the enzymes and everything to make sure your body functions properly. They may check it genetically if there's any SNPs, any genetic differences that change how you process stuff, and then you can supplement accordingly. So you basically, again, feed the body what it needs to balance out, rather than suppressing chemically the symptoms that you see. Then acupuncture herbs can really help with that. Massage is a great way. I mean, Matt,
Oh my God. Don't talk about massage. Don't
I'm
talk
doing
about massage.
with him right now to address old trauma, and every time after the treatment there's like a little freak out with I can't see. I'm like, yes, that's normal, because that's where the channel starts that we're releasing right now. And then every time when he gets a massage, the therapist works on these same channels. They work hand in hand, so he's already seeing the change with the two modalities working together.
I don't like it. I'm gonna be honest though. I don't like it though. I made this shit clear because one, I went blind. I went fucking blind, and I was freaking the fuck out. I was freaking out. And I was like, oh shit, my eyesight gone. What the fuck y'all done did to me? And she's like, no, just calm down, just calm down. Oh, hell no, don't calm down. I can't see. I can't see nothing right now. Somebody needs to tell me what the fuck going on.
Listen, you're supposed to be saying thank you. I'm about to beat your ass.
So, I can't beat your ass if I can't see you. See, that's the whole point. But then I will say this. And I said something to her last week. I said, hey, I know y'all guys are working on my anxiety and my PTSD. I said, but I don't like it because I can be sitting here watching a movie and some sad shit happens, and the next thing I know, I'm tearing up. I said, that's not normal for me. I don't like that. She said, yeah, but the problem is the trauma's being released, so those channels are opening up, and that's why you're having that emotional contact with the movie or the situation that's going on. And I've just been clear about the shit. I don't like it.
Nobody
like,
says
well,
healing is
she's
fun.
like, well, ain't nothing I can do about it because that's how it works. She said, this is a long journey, and so those channels are going to keep opening up. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to do a shout out. I have a masseuse. He's the first male that's ever touched my body. His name is Ron. He is he trained in Thailand, and you know that shit Miyagi did on his show in the movie where he heats up his hand to help Daniel's son. Homeboy literally makes his hands hot, and he is the best massage therapist. I told him I've never let a guy touch me. You're the first one, but this dude is authentic. I mean, he takes you to a whole nother place when he works on your body. Anybody wants to get his telephone number, hit me up, DM me. This brother is legit.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, we've all recognized the amazing benefits of Eastern medication with the acupuncture. So, how come Eastern medication is more widely accepted than West Indian medication? Because it's still, herbs and holistics and alignings and all of this other stuff. But the West Indian, med is considered like voodoo, black magic, but the base is the same.
The Chinese kept incredible records. We have old texts that are thousands of years old, the Yellow Emperor's writings, where they were discussing the concepts of yin and yang and the concept of health through the elements, through the yin and yang, through the seasons and everything in nature. So I think that's the reason why it's been so persistent, because we have all these recorded texts. There's a lot of studies going on. In China, the hospitals are highly integrated. Like for a while, they relied exclusively on Western medicine because they didn't like the Taoist sources of traditional medicine, but then discovered fairly quickly that the traditional medicine had value. And then the texts for the Western side were rewritten by taking every single spiritual reference out of it and just turning it into kind of a science-like text. But I think that's the reason, because it's been used in the hospitals, because there's so much documentation on it.
I'm sorry. I feel I agree. I think it's the bottom line. I'm sorry. When you can make a pill that is only $3, but you're going to charge someone $3,000 for this pill, and their life depends on it. I think Western medicine has totally become about the bottom line.
Of course.
Oh yeah, Pfizer made $20 billion this year, but how many people could not afford the medicine that Pfizer could give them to save their life or their family members?
Just look at the numbers. They just came out with some studies because they've been looking at the COVID cases in some of the African countries. Well, it turns out in this one country that they looked at, even though only 5% of the population was vaccinated, they had hardly any death rates. The Omicron wasn't even registering anymore. And they just didn't do anything with it. But a lot of times in these regions, people go back to traditional areas. They looked at different districts in China and found that the really small rural districts, because they rely mostly on herbal medicines, fared better than the ones in the big cities. Of course, there's more traffic and more interaction in the big cities as well.
Right.
But we know in general that these traditional medicines are really strong. One of my colleagues, he goes to Africa quite frequently, and he was there twice doing Ebola outbreaks. And he says, like, America is a total like kindergarten approach when it comes to that. He said they have no clue. They make such poor choices. He said in Africa, they're so well, in all the African countries, is that they're so well organized in how they get everything together that it never ever spirals out of control like it does here. So I think, Mac, you're right. It's a big, big financial factor. We have industrial food, which is nothing but food-like substances and poisons. We have the industrial chemical process, which creates the chemicals for the GMO foods that the industrial
Right.
agriculture creates. And then you have big pharma, which sells the cures or the pills for all the problems that the other two industrial complexes cause.
Well, I mean, I want to hit back on what you said when it came to food. I mean, so much of our food now is put together like meats are glued together. God forbid the steroids, but they're gluing the damn meat together.
Pick up any package of food you have right now and read the ingredients and tell me how many of those things you don't even know what they are. It's like when you read the ingredient label, every single food has to be a food that you either have in the pantry or in the fridge. That's all.
My thing is, coming from a cultural background, whether people are African or West Indian or whatever, when people say, West Indian food smells funny, Indian foods always, have these ingredients or XYZ ingredients. Jamaicans have a lot of jerk. West Indians and Trinidadians, and we have a lot of curry, and and we tell people it's not just food. It's medication.
Yeah.
Just like, garlic and everything else. Because if I can't pronounce it, I shouldn't be buying it. Exactly. If I can't eat it, I shouldn't put it on my skin or my hair. I mean, it's simple as that.
And I mean, we become what we eat. Once the umbilical cord is cut, every single biochemical transformation in the body depends on the food we eat. So if we eat good food, it's broken down and the good particles become part of our body. We take the proteins and they go into our body, into the various tissues. And you want to make sure that it's healthy food. I mean, we know, for example, we found the presence of Bt toxin, which are the toxins created by the GMO corn and soy, in the intestines of people with chronic inflammatory bowel problems and with bowel cancer. So all these chemical and food-like substances that are allowed in this country, they're not even allowed in most of the other countries. So from that point,
that is true.
The damage that is done, even when people think they're eating healthy. I mean, I see it in my practice. People come in and they think they're eating healthy, and then they tell me what they eat, or they give me the food journal, and it looks really healthy in the eyes of mainstream, but I can only cringe because they're not getting any of the nutrients they need, because most of the food is full of chemical additives that are harmful to their health.
Wow. Hey guys, we're getting close to the end of the show. It's like 7:10 now, which is about 5 minutes before the show. So if I could ask you, Dr. Laufer, to give one bit of advice to someone who is not sure about acupuncture and Eastern medicine, what would be that one thing that you would tell them that would make them say, you know what, I need to step on that side of the line and try it out?
Well, most of the time that's because people are afraid of needles as well. So I always tell them we use a lot of other modalities. I have patients where I never ever used one needle. I just used Chinese massage. I use moxa or acupressure. So if needle phobia is the reason for them not to come, it's like just mention it to the acupuncturist and they can take care of you with or without needles.
That's good to know.
Before we close this out, how much does acupuncture cost? How do I know if I'm paying too much? Or how do I know if it's too cheap?
Well, it depends on what. I'm a big fan of community acupuncture. Community acupuncture is where you don't have your individual fancy rooms. You go in, it's a bigger room, usually with 6 reclining chairs. You go there, you sit in your own chair, and you get acupuncture done there. And there's a network called POCA, which is the professional organization of community acupuncturists. And they usually run between $25 and $45 a session. So that's like really on the low end. That's possible because of the way the model goes. And I know in California, the rates for regular acupuncture for repeat patients was between $80 and $250, depending on who you see. It depends on how long the practitioner has been in practice. It depends on what kind of specialty it is. There's acupuncturists who work on sliding scale. That's what I usually did because I want everybody to be able to get care no matter what their financial wealth is. But there's a wide spectrum.
I know my acupuncturist charges $75 a session, but for veterans who don't have the VA paying for it, like I took my mother there and I took someone else there and I paid for them, it was only $50. So you just have to, like she said, depends on the acupuncturist and talk to them and let them know, hey, you know, I can only afford so much or whatever. But my acupuncturist really, he believes in helping people. So he works with you.
Right.
And I love that about him. So that makes a huge difference to me. And I've been with him now, it's almost 2 years. Been with him about 2 years. So, and Claudia, just to go on one note that you said, you're right, the VA, they started us out with 15 sessions. Now we're down to 8 sessions. I don't understand it. It works, and people are constantly going back and using them, but you're cutting our sessions less and less.
That's why I'm trying to set up a nonprofit community clinic that specializes in PTSD and veterans, because that way you can set it up in a way that you can treat patients for free, and that's how you get your tax exempt status.
Then we might have to work on that. Me and Claudia, y'all may see a clinic pop up.
One thing I want to say really quick too, because we were talking about sexual health, acupuncture and herbs are actually really good in treating STDs as well. It usually works better in treating and preventing future herpes outbreaks, and it's really effective for these things as well, without doing the damage the traditional Western treatments for these infections.
Oh, I'm gonna be talking to Dr. Laufer. Shit, I can get STD treatment. Oh hell yeah, we are.
Well,
okay.
I think is one of the things that when it comes to medicine, period, it goes back to what you said. Western medicine breaks everything down. So you're telling me that I now have I have an STD. Now my relationship is in shambles because I'm stressed out, I'm depressed, I don't know how to deal with this. Then because I'm not sleeping well, now I'm causing myself to have, aches and pains and things like that. I'm no longer eating consistently, and I can go and get acupuncture and herbal medication, and it can balance all of these different things if a qualified medical professional is providing this service to me.
Yeah, it happens. And I had a lot of times my patients ended up bringing their partners in too, because the partners insisted on the Western way and then realized how well their partner was doing with the herbs. And all of a sudden they both showed up at the practice to be treated.
That's definitely a blessing.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm sorry. I know I'm getting here people commenting saying, hey, they were laughing what Sweet said about a pussy and stuff. But and the guy I was talking about was Ron Fowler. And a lot of people say thank you for the information because it's really informative. So we're going to have to close out the show now because we only keep it 45 minutes. But maybe we'll start going to an hour show depending on how the listeners feel about it. Listen, guys, if you want to get in touch with Dr. Laufer, please DM me or hit me up, and I'll make sure that she gets your information, and maybe she can work with you privately or help you by giving you some information. Remember, what we say on this show is, we're not therapists we have a doctor on, but we're in the Men Suites are not doctors. We're just giving you our advice and our opinion.
I'm still a therapist. I'm not a doctor, but my stage name is now I'm a doctor. I'm a trans professional. So moving forward, we're going to call me Dr. Sweets J. Spencer, just to let you guys know. Okay. Yeah, taking advantage of this.
So remember what we say at the end of each show. We're put on this earth to help someone. And guys, if you can't do anything to help anybody, please, all we ask is you don't do anything to harm them. And with that being said, we are going to close out the show.
I think that was great, you guys.